This morning, our spiritual practice for today is Sabbath. And Sabbath is about rest, it's about renewal, it's about being filled up by God. I got to be honest with you, I don't feel like the best person to talk about rest right now because I feel exhausted. I feel exhausted on a regular basis. I feel like Laura and I haven't really slept for like 3 years. Really, probably more like 4 years. We haven't slept very well. We have a 3-year-old who doesn't sleep super well. We're seeing positive signs, so we're excited about that. But I feel like the last 3 years have kind of felt like about 6 years. I'm like, you just turned 3? What? I felt like you were 2 for like a lifetime. I don't know. So we're kind of barely hanging on a lot of the time. I also have felt, particularly the last few weeks, and I know some of you all feel this, but I've just felt a lot of unrest inside of me, and I've been guilty of like just the scrolling, the doom scrolling, you know they call it, where it's just like taking in all the chaos and all the just like craziness that's being thrown at us left and right by those in power and then the weather and all this. I don't feel very rested right now. So I want y'all to hear me when I say that this subject is something I'm just continually trying to figure out how to creatively find rest in my life and receive that invitation from Jesus to find rest. But no, for me, I don't find it to be easy. And I know that it's a challenge for you all. So hopefully you can hear these words as an invitation from God that I'm trying to receive and that hopefully you all can try to receive also. I love talking about Sabbath. It's such a beautiful concept and it's so challenging to me. There's a book that we preached kind of through the themes of this book a few years back called Sabbath as Resistance by Walter Brueggemann. Dustin's giving the fist pump back there. Julie's giving it too. But Sabbath is a beautiful idea that really, I believe, is an act of resistance against some powerful forces in our world that are really leading us to the opposite of rest. And so we're going to talk just a few minutes about it. I'm going to share a brief reflection, and then Rachel Dupree, one of our members here, is going to share a little bit of her own personal journey right now with some components of this as well. So I'll give you a couple of thoughts about, quotes about Sabbath to begin. Matthew Sleeth wrote a book called 24/6, and his idea is that we're called not to 24/7 life, that the seventh day is really meant as a day to stop, and he says that Sabbath is to cease from working, very simple, but to cease from working. Wayne Muller wrote a book about Sabbath that I thought was really profound. And he says that Sabbath is anything that preserves a visceral experience of life-giving nourishment and rest. Anything that helps us to experience that life-giving nourishment and rest. And we know just taking a day off from work doesn't always mean we have life-giving nourishment and rest, right? So that's something to live into. I want to read a longer quote that he shares that I've shared before here, but I think it captures some of what our society is doing to us. A successful life has become a violent enterprise. We make war on our bodies, pushing them beyond their limits. War on our children because we cannot find enough time to be with them when they are hurt and afraid and need our company. War on our spirits because we are too preoccupied to listen to the quiet voices that seek to nourish and refresh us. War in our communities because we are fearfully protecting what we have and we do not feel safe enough to be kind and generous. War on the earth because we can't take the time to place our feet on the ground and allow it to feed us, to taste its blessings and give thanks. He says a successful life has become a violent enterprise. And I think he's on to something. There's an tremendous pull in our culture to consume, achieve, compete, dominate, faster, stronger, louder, more. Better, strive harder, work smarter, eat better, eat more, eat less, overdrink, more steps, more active minutes, more standing, more running, faster, stronger, louder. More people, more posts. Go hard, work hard, play hard, level up. More, faster, more money, more investments, better investments. Live simply, live smarter, more education, better education. Diversify, go. Better resume, more inclusive, more exclusive, unique, pop, shine, glow, arouse, attract, more, faster, 24/7, small wait time, no wait time, fast delivery to low cost, free, 2-day, even 1-day shipping, cheaper, more convenient, faster, smarter, better, more. Our culture is a violent enterprise, and many of us are struggling, and I think many of us are in pain. There's a violent restlessness in our society telling us that we're never finished, that we can never stop, that we're never enough, and that there's always more. Consume, achieve, compete, climb, strive. We are at war with ourselves, our families, our communities. In many ways, I think because we've decided to worship a God of restlessness instead of the God who rests. Jesus invites us to something different. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon me, or take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. You know, I've been thinking recently, over the last few years, really about the good work that we do. Many of us in our day-to-day lives are doing really important and vital and good work that is changing and impacting people's lives. In many ways, Embrace has become this kind of like respite where a lot of folks who are doing a lot of really important work and experiencing kind of the hardship and the beauty of all of that come here and they're filled up and restored and find support, and then they go out and keep it up throughout the week. And I think that's a beautiful part of our community. Many of us are seeking to address significant problems and issues in our communities. The way many of us are working for peace and justice in our society in many different ways. Many of us are reaching out to broken and hurting people every single day. Many of us in this room are educators, working tirelessly to love and support children. And I'm noticing and hearing that children are maybe more traumatized than they've ever been in our society. It's hard work. Many of us are trying to show up in our work with love and compassion and intention. Especially now when our nation is going through this volatile and scary moment, we're trying to witness to something different. And I'll tell you a struggle that I have, and you can tell me if you resonate with it. I'm often not doing my best work because I'm too overworked. Because of my busyness, I fail to cultivate time to rest and reflect and restore. And I'm often to seek to solve problems frantically, desperately, reactively, and often very poorly and ineffectively. Instead of prayerfully responding to the issues of our day, the issues in my life, in my family, I am often anxiously reacting with no clear sense of where I ought to be going or where God is in the midst of what I'm engaging in. Does anybody else have this problem? That instead of lovingly responding, we're anxiously reacting? Thomas Merton says this. He says, to allow oneself to be carried away by a multitude of conflicting concerns, to surrender to too many demands, to commit oneself to too many projects, to want to help everyone and everything is to succumb to violence. The frenzy of our activism neutralizes our work for peace. It destroys our inner capacity for peace. It destroys the fruitfulness of our own work because it kills the root of our inner wisdom, which makes us more fruitful. Thomas Merton was a contemplative and an activist all in one. Howard Thurman was another example of someone like this. And they were always calling those who were very active to not just succumb to that completely and continue to find the wellspring that exists within. We're too often operating, I think, out of a mode of survival, reacting out of fear and sloppy desperation to demands and problems and issues before us. And Jesus offers a solution. He says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, learn from me. I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." I've preached on this before, and it really just came from the text in the Gospel of Mark. But there's this pattern in the Gospel of Mark in Jesus' life where he's highly engaged. So he engages, and then he withdraws. Engage and withdraws. And Jesus literally had to hike mountains to withdraw. You know, it's like you hear he went off to pray. He was literally hiking mountains to get away from people so that he could have that time to renew and restore. And so when Jesus was on, he was engaged. He was immersed in there in the midst of the struggle, among the suffering. He was awake to what was going on. He was there. But he also had to withdraw and take time to restore and renew and rest. He models this for us. All this is rooted in really all the way back to the book of Exodus, and really even before that to the book of Genesis in the story of creation, where God works for 6 days and then on the seventh day rested. But then part of the law that was given to the Israelites in the wilderness was this. And this is the longest commandment in the 10 Commandments. Might say something about the importance of it. In Exodus 20, this is one of the commandments. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. This day of rest was not just for the Israelites, it was for everyone. The foreigners living among them, the servants, even the animals got a chance to rest. The land got a chance to rest. It was equally applied to all. The concept of Sabbath or an entire day of rest probably would have been jarring and shocking to the Israelites who had just come out of living in slavery in the land of Egypt. Fast-paced, never-stop, produce, consume society of Egypt. In Pharaoh's land, they had no stoppage of work. There were brick quotas to be met, buildings to be made, wealth to be gained for those at the top. It was an anxiety-producing society where stopping was not an option. Sabbath, this gift of Sabbath, this commandment from God was an act of resistance against the violent forces of overconsumption and overwork and being defined by what you do. Sabbath invites us to go deeper. Each week, Laura and I try to take Fridays as a Sabbath. I'll say Sabbath with a toddler is a different experience. It's not as restful as it could be. But we try our best on Fridays to refrain from doing work. Sundays aren't great for me because I'm doing my church thing. I have to prepare for this. This takes work, you know. And so I try to take Fridays as a day. And we try to rest together with friends or family, just the three of us, or sometimes Kai's at preschool, and so we can relax, just the two of us. But we do things that try to bring us peace and rest. And we get it right sometimes, and sometimes we fail, and Fridays don't feel restful at all. Because, you know, we can actually be doing, not working, but still not really resting, you know. And so we try to do that, give our mind a break, our body a break. We go on walks and try to stay off email and that kind of stuff. However, I will say that my life is quite busy. Parenting a toddler has brought a lot to my life and put a lot on my plate. And some weeks I don't get everything done when Friday rolls around. Some Fridays I think I need to work today. I have too much to do. However, when I think those things, like sometimes I give in, but on my better days, God challenges me, and I try to protect that day. Because God reminds me that the world around me keeps moving without me. He reminds me that this church keeps moving without me. My first sabbatical I ever went on was for about 5 weeks, and my wife and I, we went and did the Camino de Santiago in Spain, and I remember I'd only been the pastor for a couple of years at that point. Christina had just started working here that year, and I'm like, hey, by the way, I'm leaving for a whole month. And she's like, what? I was like, you're in charge, And I left, and I was very nervous about leaving for the church for 5 weeks, because I'm like, is it going to make it, What if something happens? What if something comes up? And it was a good lesson for me, because I left. And I realized when I got back, people said, John, we missed you, but we were fine without you. And that's good. That's what needs to happen. It reminded me that, I can let go of this stuff, and it's not really about me. And that this keeps moving. God keeps doing God's thing, and the world keeps turning without me. I love this quote by Wendell Berry. He says that Sabbath observance invites us to stop. It invites us to rest. And it asks us to notice that while we rest, the world continues without our help. It invites us to delight in the world's beauty and abundance. In this serious and dangerous moment we're facing, Sabbath feels even more important right now. Sometimes I'm so overcome with anxiety that all I can see, anxiety is about narrowness. It's about focusing narrowly on kind of one thing that's my anxiety can be through the roof, and I'm only seeing the thing in front of me, the problem that I'm facing. Sabbath and rest invites me to slow down and to step back and to see a bigger picture, to breathe and remember that God is the God that provides. And it also helps me to see that there's still beauty all around me. But I only can really experience that when I slow down enough to experience it. In this world now, I got to get outside. I got to get out into the woods, out and be reminded there's something that is much bigger and much more beautiful than all the ugliness that we experience in our day-to-day existence here. I'm going to invite Rachel Dupree to come up, and let's give her a hand as she comes up to the front. Rachel's been a member here for quite a few years now and serves on our lead team at the church and has been involved in lots of different things around here. And as I thought about Sabbath and rest, and specifically I was thinking about how getting out into nature and God's creation, how that means so much to me. And I know that means a lot to Rachel and her family. And so I wanted Rachel to be able to share some of her thoughts with you all today. So this is a gift and an honor. Thank you, Rachel.
So when John asked me to speak about my experiences with Sabbath, my first thought was, I am not the right person for this. As a self-proclaimed doer, I am comically bad at resting. But spiritual practices are just that, practices. I believe God offers us grace when we don't do them perfectly, and we have one another to learn from. I hope some of the things I've learned along this way about rest will resonate with you and offer you insights as you travel along your journeys. So throughout my life, the place where I've been able to find the greatest opportunity for rest and retreat and communion with God is in nature. Being outdoors, whether in the forest, the mountains, the desert, or even a city park, offers nourishment to my body and my soul, despite the physical exertion that goes along with hiking and camping and all those other activities that I enjoy. I can go out feeling wired and stressed, but emerge feeling calm and clear-headed. I can feel the difference in my muscles, in my mood, and in my thought processes. The transformation is exhilarating. Science has been able to shine a light on this transformation that happens in our bodies and minds when we get close to creation in this way. Time in nature offers more focused attention and boosts our creativity and problem-solving abilities. It can reduce our cortisol levels, blood pressure and muscle tension, and increase our vitamin D levels, which benefits our immune systems, bones, and blood. Regular exposure to the outdoors helps our circadian rhythm, offering us better sleep and can reduce stress, anxiety, and anger. Throughout my life, my escape into nature has taken many forms, but it was when I became a parent that the practice of spending time in nature deepened. In case you haven't had the joy of hiking through the woods with children, I'll tell you this: it is slow, dreadfully slow. There is no worm that escapes the grip of a toddler, no dandelion left unpicked, and no puddle left unsplashed. This call to slow down was a practice in and of itself, and the beautiful benefit of honing your observation skills is the curiosity that comes with it. Of course, children are also great teachers in this department. So many questions arise when walking through the environment, taking it in with all your senses. What bird is making that sound? What does this moss feel like? Have you ever seen a mushroom that big? Why is that beetle hiding in that tree? What is living under this rock? And then inevitably gratitude seeps in. You begin to notice all the ways things are connected and how you too are a part of the system that has been put into motion by something bigger than yourself. You see the beauty in the new things you learn through your observation and study, and you stand in awe of the mystery of things you do not yet understand. Sorry, I'm nervous. Being in nature in this way allows me not to experience God as a thought process, but to encounter that feeling of being closer to the Creator. The call to pray without ceasing becomes not words that I say in my head or with my mouth, but of connecting into God's creation with my whole being. When I'm in nature, something in me lightens and opens. It's the closest I get to feeling shalom, wholeness in my daily life. As a result of spending time in nature and experiencing the rest and renewal it provides, I've come to really appreciate nature's rhythms. The seasons themselves offer us an example of how we, as part of God's creation, are meant to go through cycles of rest and retreat. Take the trees, for instance. They don't provide fruit all year. Half of the year, in the spring and the summer, they are dedicated to growth and development. In fall, they provide fruits for harvest, but then winter comes. They drop their leaves, stop producing sugars, and retreat into dormancy. There's no fruit, only rest. Author Catherine May writes in her book, Wintering, The Power of Rest and Retreat, that transformation is the business of winter. This idea is something I've meditated heavily upon over the past couple years. A little over 2 years ago, I began suffering from a chronic illness that changed my life in some pretty significant ways. Overwhelmed by the fatigue, brain fog, and pain it has caused, I've had to say no to many things that I'd become accustomed to saying yes to. I stepped back from jobs and activities and engagements with friends and family because my body just could not handle them. The need to rest was thrust upon me. I wish I could say that I accepted this respite gracefully, but as my husband and close friends will tell you, I did not. I have spent the better part of 2 years grieving about my limitations and my own inability to do as much as I used to. Let's be clear. This forced undoing was not Sabbath, but God has graciously softened my heart to the gift that this period of rest can be. The past 2 years of forced rest has made me sensitive to how my body experiences my need for rest. I can intensely feel when I need to sleep, turn off my devices, or engage in meditation or nourishing movement. I can feel in my body when I need to detach and when engaging is okay. While it's been a hard and painful process, I can also see the gift in learning how to slow down and just be. I've had to consistently remind myself that I'm not in any more control of the things God is doing in this world than the trees are. And relinquishing the control of doing, accepting the gift to just be, allows me to connect with the love of God and the oneness of creation. In the wintering is transformation, whether that wintering is a forced retreat, as is the case with chronic illness, or a chosen Sabbath that is a gift to all of us. I've learned that we have the opportunity to enter into communion with God through rest and to be transformed by his love. The gift of just being holds just as much value as producing. May also reminds us of this very important aspect of wintering. The energies of spring arrive again and again, nurtured by the deep retreat of winter. We have seasons when we flourish and seasons when the leaves fall from us, revealing our bare bones. Given time, they grow again. It's my hope that my period of wintering does indeed turn into spring. I'm already beginning to see the buds, the transformation beginning to take hold. And in those times when that process of transformation seems dark and slow, turning my gaze toward nature and its cycles reminds me that this moment of rest is okay and to embrace the moment I'm in. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, for sharing with us this morning. It's been a gift to hear from lots of different people in our church over the last few weeks. We need to make this a more regular thing, don't we?